quite interesting as well.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, it's I think Prabhupada is explaining something there. Quite, yeah, it was so it was good.
Yeah, oh, that's great.
Okay, we'll start with two, I guess. Yeah.
Yes, so let's recite the Sanskrit together.
Yep.
Kurvan
Kuvan
eveha
ivaya
karmani
kamani
jivishechatam
jivisecha
samaha
ma
evam
vam
tvai
tvai
anyate tosti
na
na
karma
yate
lipyet nare.
Let's do it again. It's good for
Okay.
practicing.
Yep. One
Kurvane
ivaha karmani jiji vishecha
samaha
chatam samaha
evam
ivam tavinanya
vainanyate
atheto asti na
na karma
karma lipyate nare.
And once more.
Okay.
Kurvane
Kuvan iva karma karmani
Jive sechatam samaha evam
vam
tvai
tavinanya
tosti
na karma
nakalipite
lipyate
nare.
nare.
Okay, would you like to read the English
Okay, yep.
translation?
One may aspire to live for hundred of years if he continuously goes on working in that way. For that sort of work will not bind him to the laws of karma. There is no alternative to this way for man. Oh, that's that's deep. I guess I don't understand much.
Yeah, yeah, okay, well, explain. Yeah. Of course, it's very natural that one wants to continue living. No one wants to die, really. I mean, there's a few people, they commit suicide. Um, and that's because they suffer tremendously, either mentally, usually, or physically, and they just want to end the life. But ordinarily, of course, one desires to continue living, and no one wants to die. That's a great fear that people have, is the fear of death. And that's why people don't want to think about death, because it's a very scary idea that our existence ends. Of course, in Bhagavad Gita, we learn, it's one of the first lessons we learn in the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, that we never die. That actually, even though the body guaranteed will die, there's no doubt the body's going to die. You can't stop the body dying. But even so, when the body dies, the soul continues to live. The soul's eternal. Nahanyate hanyamane sharire in the second chapter. When the body is killed, we're not killed. Ajo nitya shashvato yam purano. Aja means unborn. The body is born. As ja. Ja means to take birth. Like we have the word janma, birth. So the body is born, but actually the soul is aja. That we have no birth. We have no beginning. Nitya. Nitya means eternal. Shashvata, everlasting. Purano means very old, like the Puranas, right?
Oh, okay.
The Puranas means very old histories. The histories, very old histories. So we're also Purana. We're very old. We have no birth. We're everlasting, eternal, like that. But of course, the body must die. But we of course, everyone generally desires that they keep on living in this body, because we get attached in the material world. We get attached to the body, and generally we forget the soul. That's the Maya, the illusion. An illusion, we forget our real self, the eternal soul, and we identify ourselves with the body and think I am a New Zealander, I am an Aussie, I am an Indian, I'm a Fijian, or I'm a man, I'm a woman, I'm black, I'm white, like that. So we identify with the body, which is Maya, which is illusion. So the person in illusion definitely will want the body to keep on living generally, unless, like I said, they've suffered too much and they commit suicide. And for the person that's self-realized, that knows that they're the soul, then it doesn't really matter whether you live or die. Once you're self-realized, it doesn't really matter, because if you die, you're going to go back to Godhead. You're going to get moksha. And if you keep on living, you're doing bhakti, so you're happy also. Yeah. If you go back to Godhead, what will you do? You'll do bhakti.
Bhakti, yes.
You'll be chanting and hearing about Krishna and remembering Krishna and worshipping Krishna and so forth. You'll be doing bhakti activities. And in the material, what do? We are chanting and dancing and hearing about Krishna, talking about Krishna, offering prasadam, everything like that, eating prasadam. So it doesn't really matter. Actually, for a materialistic person, the longer we live in this world, as it's revealed here, the longer we live in this world, we get more bound by our karma. Actually, the longer you live, obviously more activities, more karma. And generally, the activities or the karma is binding us to another birth. To when we die, we have to take birth again. Why do we have to take birth again? Is because of our karma in this life. Because of our karma, that we have to take birth again. Because of our past karma in the last life, now we have taken birth in this body. This body is a result of our last life, our karma, our activities. And the karma now generally binds us to come back again. However, it's saying here that one may aspire to live for hundreds of years if he continuously goes on working in that way. What's that way? That's the verse number 1. Verse number 1 is that way. So what's that way? That way is to know that God is the proprietor of everything, and one should only accept his own personal quota and not infringe on the property of others, on the quota of others. So if you live in that way, then you can live for, even if you live for hundreds of years, you'll not get bound up by any.
Yeah, that's so true.
Karma won't bind you. Karma is only binding us because we don't follow these guidelines or rules of the verse number 1, understanding that God owns everything. He's the proprietor. We're just like the steward, and we only take what we need to survive. We don't take more than that. We're not greedy. We don't take other person's quota that God has given them. So we don't break the laws of karma. If you don't break the laws of, which is the laws of God, see, the laws of nature or the law of karma is basically God's laws. So Krishna's laws. So if you don't disobey him, it doesn't matter how long you live, you're not going to get bound up, and you're not going to get punished and have to suffer anymore. See, just like us, right? As long as you follow the law of the Australian government, you don't get any punishment, right?
That's right.
But as soon as you break the laws of the government, then immediately you're punished. So in the same way, if you don't break the laws of God, if you follow the laws of God, you can live in the world for hundreds of years or even thousands of years if it was possible. Of course, in Kali Yuga, that's not possible, but in the previous Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, they lived for 1,000 years. In Treta Yuga, the previous one to that, they lived for 10,000 years. In Satya Yuga, they lived for 100,000 years. So you can live in the world for any number of years as long as you follow the laws of God, and you won't have any punishment. You won't get any punishment. But as soon as you break the laws of God or do the bad karma, then you're just getting more and more entangled in the world the longer you live.
Yeah, I think the last time I remember now that, yeah, it's just like laws. You have, as you said, in a country or a society, you have laws.
Yeah,
Similarly, for this universe, there are rules,
of course,
and
of course.
and if you don't follow those rules, you will be basically, have, that's what we are unhappy or whatever. We go through all the, three forms of miseries,
Mm,
and if that's
yeah,
because we are not following the rules. Or,
mm,
well, yeah,
yeah,
and yeah, so that makes sense, I guess. Yeah, yeah. So
yeah.
the only thing is we need to know all the rules,
You
and
need
that's
to know
coming
the
from the
rules.
Veda, and that's
Yeah,
coming
yeah,
from the Veda. Okay.
yeah. I mean, everyone knows there's rules or laws in the universe.
Mm,
Just like we say the law of karma, right?
mm,
Law. It's a law. Sorry, law of gravity. Law of gravity. So even people that are not God conscious, they know about the law of gravity. They teach us
mm,
that at school, and we become aware of that. You know, like if you, how do you know the law of gravity exists? You know, if you jump off a cliff,
mhm,
you're definitely gonna crash to the bottom because
mm,
that's gravity, right? So everything tends to go downwards. You get held downwards. So gravity is there. So like that,
mm,
they say the law of gravity. So there's different universal laws. The law of motion. There's so many. The law of physics. You
mm,
know, you have the law of physics and Newton's law, and there's so many laws. So these are universal laws, and it doesn't matter what you believe, isn't it?
mm.
And I say I don't believe in gravity. I'm going to jump off a skyscraper. I'm going
Yeah.
to jump off, and I say, I don't believe in gravity. There is no gravity. There's no such law of gravity. I'm going to jump off the skyscraper, but that doesn't matter. You're still going to crash. So whether you believe or not in the law, but the law is there. So these universal laws are like that. It doesn't matter what you believe or don't believe. It doesn't matter whether you're a Christian or a Hindu or Muslim, or whether you're an atheist or a Buddhist or whatever like that. But these universal laws control everyone and everything. There's no exceptions to these rules. Mm. So it finishes off saying there is no alternative to this way for man. So
Mm,
so that's what I'm saying, that these are universal laws. There's no escape. There's no other option. Either you follow the laws and you can become more and more free from the cycle of birth and death, or if you don't follow the law, then you'll be subject to the reincarnation, to the cycle of birth and death. There's no alternative.
mm.
You can say, I don't believe in karma, I don't believe in reincarnation, but it's still going to control you. It's still going to affect you. It's not going to let you go just because you don't believe in it. Oh, I'm a scientist. I'm a rich person. I don't believe in this karma and reincarnation. I can do anything I want. I make the laws around here. I do whatever I want. I'm free. So you can think whatever you like, but still the laws of material nature control us.
That's
So
true.
like
Yeah.
that.
I think the physical, or physics law you're talking about, you can see, you can perceive by your senses, but
Yeah.
these subtle other rules, that the like you shouldn't be killing animal and all those things, where you
Yeah.
don't actually, or you don't do bad to somebody else
Yeah.
intentionally, or those things. We don't think that much about that. We might think about physics, but not about these things. At least myself, not used to think about those, as
Yeah.
there are laws. Obviously, there are laws, and we are not following that. That's, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
that makes
True.
sense. Yeah.
Sometimes there's a gap between the action and the reaction.
Yeah, that's the problem, I think, because you
Yeah.
don't you don't get the reaction, so you don't think that. What
There's
you
a
see is all
connection.
good, yeah, but actually
Yeah,
it's not good. So
yeah,
the timing, as you said, there's a gap in the timing,
yeah,
and so you don't see the reaction. So that must be the reason why people don't say, if I'm doing bad, oh, it's fine. I mean,
yeah,
I didn't have anything bad, nothing bad happened to me. But in long term, as you said, there might be a gap, and you will get that thing back. Yeah, if
yeah,
you've
yeah.
done something. Okay.
I mean, sometimes if we do bad karma, sometimes there is an immediate reaction. I remember I saw a
Mm,
video. Um, one postie dropped off a parcel outside someone's front door,
mm.
and a car drove past at that time and saw that, and they were thieves.
Is
So
it?
they stopped the car when the postie left, and the lady ran out of the car and grabbed the parcel and ran. Now, when
Mm.
she ran, she slipped over and broke her leg.
Wow.
So
Mm,
that's
yeah.
immediate reaction,
Mm,
so but sometimes it might be a gap. And but even in the material law system, someone might do a crime and they might not get caught straight away. Maybe they get caught a year later, 5 years later, 10 years later, or so forth. So just like there's gaps in the material law
mm,
system with the punishment, so with the universal law also, we may be given a long rope, some freedom to do whatever we want, and then people do, some bad things, and they're not
mm.
maybe necessarily punished straight away, but eventually, at the time of death,
It.
they'll be held accountable and responsible for everything they've done,
Mm.
and they'll go to get the reactions for all these things.
So,
But we can
yeah.
still understand them through the scriptures. That's the
Mm.
idea, why all these directions are given in the scriptures.
Yes.
You don't necessarily, it's that you have to experience it yourself, but you can just hear about it. You can
Mm.
hear about it. And, like when we were young, our parents said, don't touch the hot stove, don't touch the fire, otherwise you'll get burnt.
Mm.
Now,
Yeah.
if we were smart, we would do what our parents said and not touch it. But if we were foolish and we don't listen to our parents, then we put our hand on the fire and they go,
Mm.
oh, you get burnt. So there's different ways of understanding something just by hearing about it
Mm.
or by experiencing it.
Mm.
And so
Yes.
so just by hearing from the scriptures, we can understand what the laws are, and if we follow the laws, we can have a good life. But if we disobey that, or if we don't hear from the scriptures, and we just blindly go through life,
Mm.
we will encounter so many problems. Mm. So let's see what Prabhupada has to say here. Do you want to
Okay.
have a read?
Yep. No one wants to die. Everyone
Mm,
wants to live as long as he can drag on. This
mm,
tendency is visible not only individually, but also collectively in community, society, and nation. There is a hard struggle for life by all kinds of living entities, and the Vedas say that this is quite natural. The living being is eternal by nature, but due to his bondage in material existence, he has to change his body over and over. This
I'll just say
is the
one thing
process.
about that.
Yeah.
Um, See, it's saying it's quite natural that we want to live longer because we are eternal by nature. So, because our nature is eternal, that we don't die, therefore, it's a very strange
Mm,
concept, a very foreign concept that I'm going to die. Really? I have to die? I don't want to die. So that's there because deep within our consciousness, there's that eternal nature of the
mm,
soul. And so it's a really hard concept. It's we can't grasp. Really, I'm not going to exist any longer. My life is going to end. You
mm,
can't get a grip on that. And it's very unnatural. And that desire to want to keep on living, I don't want to die, I want to live, is there because we are eternal.
mm,
So that deep eternal nature is coming out, and that, yeah, we really try to avoid death. We try to avoid like anything, because it's not normal. It's very foreign concept for the soul, that conception of death. But because we are inside this body, we have to go through this cycle of birth and then death, and again birth and death, like that. So
And death is also a law of nature, right? Material nature.
yeah, it's a law of material nature.
Yes.
As soon as one takes birth, one definitely has to die at some point. Wherever there's birth, there has to be death.
People just want to live longer. They want to use, well, if you're not aware of that, you're not a body, you're a soul, then you're basically living. You want to live because you want to enjoy the sense gratification, I
Yeah,
guess. If you're not,
yeah,
if you don't have the correct knowledge, I guess.
yeah. But you see, that enjoying sense gratification, that's what's binding us. That's what's binding us. People are eating meat, enjoying their senses through eating meat, having intoxication. Like, I went to the rubbish dump today to get rid of some, we've been renovating the house here, so we got a bit of rubbish to get rid of. And one lady, she came across where I was getting rid of my rubbish. She came across with a box of beer bottles, and she threw it in the recycling bin. And she went back to her car, and she came back again with another box of beer bottles. And I'm not joking, she must have made at least 8 trips, at
Wow.
least 8 or 10 trips with boxes of beer bottles. So that's just indicating that they're continuously drinking liquor, getting intoxicated, beer and wine and so forth. They must be just getting drunk every day. And so this is bad karma, and that's binding them. So actually, the longer they live, the more bad karma they have. I mean, if she lives like that for 100 years, she probably won't because of her bad habits, but the longer she lives, then there's going to be more. Every day she lives is more bad karma. It means she'll be bound up to the cycle of birth and death, to reincarnating more and more. More and more. But if someone follows like the guidelines of the previous verse, you understand that there is a God, a controller, and that we're the servant of God, and we have to follow his laws. And if you abide by his laws, then you can live. It doesn't matter how long you live, and you won't get bound up at all. You won't get more further punishment or anything like that.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yep. Okay.
Yeah, continue.
Okay.
This process.
This process is called transmigration of the soul, or karam bandhana.
Karma bandhana, yeah.
Yeah. Bondage by one's work. The
Yeah.
living entity has to work for his livelihood because that is the law of the material nature. And if he does not act according to his prescribed duties, he transgresses the law of nature and binds himself more and more to the cycle of birth and death in many aspects of life.
In many species
Oh,
of life.
sorry. Yeah, many species of life. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Do you
okay.
understand that's a law of nature, that one has to work? That's also a law that doesn't matter what body you have, everyone has to work. There's a saying that even though the lion is the king of the jungle, it still has to work very hard to find its meal. Like Prabhupada says, the lion can't just think that I will lie back and open my mouth and food will just fall into my mouth. No. Have you seen on the documentaries, the lion is running very fast to
Yep.
chasing the prey and having to catch it. And sometimes it might not get food every day, and it has to work very hard. And maybe once every few days it catches one deer or something like that, antelope, and then it'll eat that over a week or something like that. But it has to run very fast. So that's a law of nature, that you have to work. You can't stop karma. You can't just think, oh, I'm not going to do any karma. No, you have to. Karma means activity, means work. So you have to be active. You have to do some work, at least for maintaining your bodily requirements. Means to get some food, you have to work. To get a roof over your head, some shelter to sleep somewhere, you have to do some work, like that. So that's a law. You can't avoid activity, karma. But you just have to find out what karma to do. So that, like it's mentioned here, you should do your prescribed duties. Prescribed, what does it mean, prescribed duties? That means there's a work that's given in the scriptures, in the different law books for mankind, the scriptures like Manu Samhita, or different Vedic texts, or like in the Bible, the Quran. There it gives different guidelines for how to work. So one should follow that. Of course, in the Vedas, it gives very detailed descriptions of prescribed duties according to what your psychophysical nature is. Means like whether you're in the mode of ignorance, that means Sudra, then you'll be given, there's duties for a Sudra, prescribed for a Sudra, if you're in the mode of ignorance. If you're in the mode of ignorance and passion, if you have a mix of ignorance and passion, conditioned in that way, then that means Vaishya. So there'll be Vaishya, Dharma, your duties. And if you're in the mode of passion, Rajaguna, that means you have the Kshatriya nature, then there'll be duties, the Kshatriya Dharma, the duties. And then if you're in the Sattva Guna, in the mode of goodness, Brahmana, so then there'll be Brahmana, Dharma or karma, Brahmana karma, Kshatriya karma, Vaishya karma, or Dharma. So the word Dharma or karma, so duties or work. So that's prescribed there. That will be given. So if one follows those prescribed duties, then one won't get entangled in the sinful reactions and in the bondage of reincarnation like that. Does that make sense?
Yes, yeah. So I think we discussed this. The prescribed duties, and as you said, we have 4 categories, and depending on as your psychophysical nature or what guna you have, basically based on that you are assigned a particular category, and then you have to work, as you're saying, you have to work accordingly.
Yeah,
but
even like in the Bible, Christian Bible, it has different commandments there. So it says things like thou shalt not kill, love thy neighbor. That's a good one, right? Love thy neighbor.
yeah.
Thou shalt not commit adultery. Adultery means sex out of marriage, like that. And so it gives these different prescriptions there. So it's the same principle. And we would agree with those. We follow the same things. It's universal laws. And the Quran also has different guidelines. And the Buddha's teachings also has, ahimsa, paradharma, that the highest duty is non-violence, like that. So, and they say satyam, truthfulness. One should practice truthfulness and celibacy and different things like that. So these are universal prescriptions given in all different scriptures that give guidance for how to work in this world. So if one follows these guidelines given in different scriptures, then one won't get bound up by one's karma.
That's good.
So what does it mean by bondage? Bondage means, like it's saying here, more and more in the cycle of birth and death in many species of life. So bondage means you have to take birth again, and maybe not even as a human, maybe not even as an Indian or as a New Zealander, maybe as a cow or a sheep or a pig or a dog or a tree or a fish or anything. So that's what it means by bondage. And can you imagine how much you are restricted? I mean, we are restricted now. We're restricted, we we have to grow old, we have to get sick, we have to die. You can't do whatever you want. You can't say, I got to fly. I'm going to fly somewhere. Like because of coronavirus, there's even more restrictions. You can't even get in the plane. So we're restricted now. But imagine if you were put in the body of a fish or in the body of a tree, you're even more bound up. You can't do anything hardly. You have no freedom whatsoever. So that's bondage. And so if we break the laws of nature, we'll end up more and more restricted and less freedom. Like you get tied up by ropes, right? Tied up by ropes. You're bound up. It's interesting. The word guna. Guna. Like we have sattva guna, raja guna, tama guna. That guna means like mode, like we say the mode of goodness, mode of passion, mode of ignorance. But guna also means rope.
Okay.
Rope. It means rope. So you're bound up by that sattva guna, raja guna, tama guna. You get bound up by that. You're controlled by that. That's what these modes do. This Maya does it. It controls us and it completely binds us. So the more we follow the scriptures, we can get elevated, free from these gunas more and more until the point where we become liberated.
Oh, so you can bypass, you can transcend actually the guna.
Yeah. If we follow Krishna's laws, we can get free from these laws of material nature.
Wow. That's pretty good.
Yeah. Okay, let's continue.
Yeah.
Other life forms.
Other life forms are also subjected to cycle of birth and death, but when the living entity attains a human life, he gets a chance to get free from the chains of karma.
So this is very important. So whether you're in a human body or an animal body, bird body, we all have to take birth, we all have to die. There's nothing different there. We all grow old, we all get sick, we all eat, we all sleep, mate, and reproduce and we'll defend ourselves. So these are common characteristics. But what's the difference? There is a big difference in the human life, and that this is the only opportunity that no other species has other than human. And the human species can get free from this chains of karma. That's what it's saying here. That only in the human life we can get free from the chain. So like I was saying rope. So here Prabhupada's using the word chain. But same thing. Whether you say, you're bound up by a rope or a chain. So the idea is that you completely restricted. You've lost your freedom. So we get controlled completely by this karma, action and reaction. So the human life is the only opportunity to get free from this bondage in the material world of birth and death and karma. So we're very fortunate. If we have a human life, we're very lucky, very fortunate. There's 8,400,000 species in the universe. Only 400,000 are different categories of human. Different, some uncivilized, civilized. There's not only one human species. Sometimes we might think we're all the one human species, but there's many human species. We're not just talking about on Earth, but the whole universe. But even on this planet, there's more than one species of human on this planet. Some of them are very uncivilized. Some of them are more civilized, and some most civilized. Like in the Vedic culture, they're called the Aryan. You would have heard that, right? Aryan.
Yeah.
So Aryan means highly civilized, where they understand the value of human life, which is for spiritual realization. If you are in a human life and you understand the value of spiritual realization, then you're in the category of the Aryan. That means very highly civilized human being. Some of them are very barbaric, and very uncultured, uncivilized, and slightly different features also. Sometimes we see humans have different features, and some of them not so civilized, some more civilized like that. But amongst those human species, there is some opportunity to get free from the karma and to realize I am not the body, I'm a soul, that there is God, He is in control, I am a servant, I should love God, I should serve God. So these kind of thoughts and these kind of desires only come in the human life. Not other than human, no species is thinking, oh, I want to love God, I want to serve God, I want to do bhakti, I'll chant Hare Krishna like that. No species can think like that. That there's a soul there. There's a soul within every species. So the same soul, like also this soul now in a human body, we could have been in a dog's body before, a pig's body, a fish body, but now we're in the human body. The human body opens up our consciousness. Before, our consciousness was very restricted more, but now our consciousness is opened up more. So we can think, who am I? Why am I here? Why am I suffering? Even before I met devotees of Krishna, I used to think, what's this world all about? Why is there so much suffering? What's the purpose of everything? There must be more to life than working hard to pay the bills. Like that, I was thinking about all these things. So only a human being can think about these things. Is there a solution to all this suffering? What's the point of it all? Where did the universe come from? How did it all start? Who created everything? How did it get created? Like that. We look at the stars at night and think, wow, it's so fantastic, so great. How did all this happen? So like a human brain has this higher capacity. And like I said, by drinking cow's milk, that capacity is enhanced even more, like that, the finer tissue in the brain. So we have some special capacity in this human form to understand these deeper things in life, these finer things in life, spiritual subject matter. Therefore, in the Vedanta Sutra, Vyasadeva says, Atato Brahmajnasa. It's one of the sutras in the Vedanta Sutra. Atato Brahma Jijnasa. So Brahma means spiritual, Jijnasa means inquisitive,
Inquisitive.
inquisitive or to inquire. So that's only in the human form. Once you have a human form, you become inquisitive about spiritual subject matter. The all the animals and the birds and the fish and the plants, they have
They
no
don't have.
interest in spiritual things. Only a human being has that. So we're very fortunate.
And
Of
if there is a
course,
and there is a purpose for that as well, to, as you said, the ultimate, you have get rid of this, get out of this death and birth cycle.
yeah, yeah. So so this is Mother Nature and the Father Krishna giving us the opportunity to get out, or to get freedom. But if you get the human life and you don't use it for that purpose, if you use it for the
Then
same purpose as what the animals are doing and the birds and everything, then you wasted that valuable human life. Then definitely you're not going to get it next life. 100% guaranteed. If you get a human life and you don't use it for spiritual realization, 100% guaranteed you're not going to get a human life in your next life. You're going to go down. You're going to go down. Because that's what it's for. It was a gift given to us by nature to get out of the material world. And if we don't use it to get out of the material world, but we get further bound up by doing bad karma, then definitely Mother Nature's not going to give another human body again. If your father gives you the keys to his new BMW and says, "Hey son, you drive it carefully and everything, have a good time," and then you go and smash up your father's car, then you think he'll give you the car keys very quickly again? No.
exactly same. Yeah.
So you were given a lot of freedom, and then you misuse the freedom, then you're not going to be given the freedom again. So yeah, it's a great responsibility, this human life. We can get free from karma, or we can get more. stuck in the karma if we misuse it.
So true.
Yeah, so we can continue that.
Okay.
Karma,
Akarma, and vikarma are very clearly described in Bhagavad Gita. Action that are performed in terms of one's prescribed duties, as mentioned in the revealed scripture, are called karma. Action that are free one, action that free one from the cycle of birth and death are called akarma. And action that are performed through misuse of one's freedom that direct one to the lower life forms are called vikarma. Of these three types of actions, that which frees one from the bondage to karma is preferred by intelligent men. Ordinary men wish to perform good work in order to be recognized and achieve some higher status of life in this world or in heaven. But more advanced men want to free altogether from the action and reaction of the work. Intelligent men well know that both good and bad work equally bind one to the material miseries. Consequently, they seek that the work which will free them from the reaction of both good and bad work. Such liberating work is described here in the pages of Sri Isopanisad.
Yeah, so this subject is discussed in Bhagavad Gita also. Three kinds of work. Like I said, you can't escape work. Everyone has to work. It's not a matter of whether you work or you don't work. It's just a matter of how you're going to work. You can't stop working. So karma, akarma, and vikarma.
Okay.
So karma means to follow, that is to work according to what the scriptures say. You follow the scriptures. And if you do that, you're going to end up with a better life on this earth, a better life on this earth, and either you're going to come back in your next life with even a better body on this earth, or you're going to go to Swarga, to heaven. That's how you end up going to Swarga, if you do the karma. If you do the karma. So what is the work prescribed in the scriptures? That's like doing yagya, sacrifices. If you do yagya, sacrifices, you're gonna get a better body in your next life, either on this earth or in heaven. Another thing prescribed, karma. So there's yagya, and then there's dan, charity. Charity. If you give charity, that's also karma. That's a pious activity. And then there's tapasya. So these are different prescribed activities. And of course, like I said, prescribed, if you were a Vaishya, you follow the rules for a Vaishya. If you're a Kshatriya, you follow the rules for a Kshatriya. If you're a Brahmana, you follow the rules for a Brahmana, like that. But in all, whether you're a Brahmana, Kshatriya, or Vaishya, or whatever, but you should be doing some yagya, doing some dan, doing some tapasya. And this is very purifying. And if you do that, whatever your nature is, if you do those things, then you're going to get a better life in your next life. So many people are attracted to that. Oh, yes, I want to go to heaven and enjoy there with the apsaras and gandharvas and drink the somaras and have a beautiful body, and there's beautiful women there and everything like that. So they get attracted to these descriptions in the scriptures, and they want to go to heaven. But if we're more clever, we should think, well, but it's still in the material world, and still you have to die, after a long time, but still you have to die, and then you have to come back down. After enjoying in the Swarga, in the heaven, then you come back down to earth after 10,000 years. So you think, well, that's only temporary, that's not the best. So if you're more intelligent, then you want to get completely liberated from the material world, so go to the spiritual world. And the way to do that is not by karma, is not by doing the pious activities, following the scriptures, but to do the bhakti. if you do the bhakti, if you directly surrender to God and serve God, then you can get, that's called akarma. That means even if you are serving God in this world, if you know that you're a servant of God and you're trying to please God by your actions, you're trying to please God, and the results of your work you give to God, then there's no reactions to your work. That's why it's called akarma. Because akarma seems to be defined as inaction.
Yes,
Because
yeah.
karma means action. If you put
Opposite of
a in
karma,
front of
yeah.
it, it means no action. But it doesn't actually mean no action. What it means is you're doing an action, but there's no reaction. So it's like you didn't do anything. Does that make sense? Because there's
Yes,
no
yes.
reaction, it's like you didn't do anything. But you're acting,
Yes.
but because you're doing it to please God, it's a sacrifice to please God, you don't get any reaction. Like Arjuna did action. He killed lots of people on the Battle of Kurukshetra, but he did it to serve God. Because Krishna told him, I want you to fight. So because he's working under God's direction, although he's acting, he's not getting any reaction because he's doing it under God's direction. So for Arjuna, his fighting on the Battle of Kurukshetra is akarma. It's akarma. It's non-reactive work. Non-reactive
So
work.
you're not actually doing it for yourself, even though you're
Yeah.
doing it, but you're not doing it for yourself. You're doing it
Yes.
for the Krishna. So
Yeah. So that's
there's
akarma.
no
Whatever you do.
reaction. Yeah.
Yeah. So whether you do the work in the factory or in an office or looking after your family, if you're doing it to please Krishna, that's akarma. And if you're working in the office or the factory or the family or whatever to please yourself, that could be karma, or it could be vikarma, depending on the situation like that. So we've got to try to go from definitely avoid the vikarma, but even better than karma is to do the akarma, to do it to please Krishna.
So
Under
in day-to-day life, we say we have to do work for Krishna. So even if I'm doing something on a computer,
yeah,
at the end of the day, we in the back of our mind, I should be thinking that I'm not doing this for myself. I'm doing it for Krishna. Though say you have to keep him at the back of everything, whatever you're doing. Is that the way it should be? I mean, I'm thinking it
yes,
from practical perspective. If
yeah,
you're actually doing simple
yeah,
things,
yeah,
then you have to keep that back of your mind that you're not doing it for yourself. You're doing it for
yes,
Krishna. He is.
yes, yes, definitely, definitely. And it helps to reinforce that if you have like a a little temple or altar in your house,
Mm,
and then you can remember more easily he's the master of the house, he's the proprietor of the house, and you're doing it to please him, and you chant to him, and you offer food to him and things like that. That can make it easier.
mm.
It's not
I
like
think.
compulsory, but it helps. It can help. It's recommended.
So you keep Krishna everywhere, even if you, for example, if you look at a phone, probably you should put the wallpaper when you open the phone, the Krishna's
Yeah,
photo, and the
yeah,
simple things. It's not
yes,
just, yeah, you have to have a temple or something. You can make it small altar,
yeah,
but it has. If we can keep him everywhere where we work, so it keeps reminding us, and then
yes,
when you, yeah, so we, so yeah, continuously keeping him in the center of everything.
yeah,
I think that's quite good. I mean, that's one other thing actually, because our mind is so fickle. It's goes
yes.
everywhere. So we need to
Chanchala.
keep it, yeah, chanchal. Yeah, so it's like this is the biggest problem to keep him. So if you need to,
Yeah,
yeah, you need to read more about, talk, as they're saying, listen more about Krishna, talk
yeah,
more about Krishna. So you're only talking about Krishna. So your mind is most of the time,
yeah,
even
yeah,
even if you're working deeply in something, and then suddenly you remember, oh, it just comes up. It just comes up,
yeah,
and that, and then you remind, then you have what you have learned, Gita and
Yeah.
Bhagavad Gita, and yeah, it keep reinforcing. So kind of everywhere, trying to put everything everywhere, so that
Yeah.
gives me a reminder.
It's
That's
natural. I mean, if that's your priority, if that's your goal, that you want to be Krishna conscious, you'll create an atmosphere, an environment around you that
mm,
stimulates your remembrance of Krishna. It's just
mm,
like if you're money minded, you're going to create an environment that's always gearing you up to make more and more money.
mm,
You'll be hearing about people, who are good at making money. You'll
mm,
be hanging out with people that are, making lots of money.
mm,
You'll be in that environment. You'll have little affirmations on the wall saying, you are the richest person, you are the best, you are the greatest, you are successful, like that. So you're going to keep affirming those kind of things.
mm,
So the same, if you want to become spiritual or Krishna conscious, you're going to want to create that environment through having an altar, a temple, having the
mm,
bhajans playing, have a picture of Krishna, like that. It's like
mm,
on my desk here, I have a picture of Prabhupada. So, you
mm,
remember your spiritual master, you remember
mm,
you're the servant, like that.
mm.
And on the desk also there's a little picture. This is Radha Govinda in India. These beautiful
Ah,
deities called Radha
mm,
Govindaji. It's a very famous deity in Rajasthan,
mm,
Govindaji. So like that, it depends what you want. If you want to get liberated from bondage of karma and you want to go to Vaikuntha, to the spiritual world, then you have to help that to happen. It's not going to be automatic. It's like I said, it's work. Everyone has to work.
mm,
So you have to work in such a way that you're going to get liberated and not come
mm.
back again.
Yeah, and then
So,
and the way the mind works as well. I mean, everything starts in the mind, right? Even if you are, say, for example, um, if you're totally vegetarian, or you said you don't want to actually, you're passing by a market where there's a pizza shop. Until and unless you saw that, your mind will start working on that. Oh, there's a pizza shop. I want to eat today or not. I mean, it starts. Everything starts here. So if we keep
yeah,
our mind more focused on one thing, we basically, that's what we manifest in our life. You want to be a doctor. You want to
yeah,
keep working on that. Keep repeating that. Right. That's what.
yeah,
So it's the. I think that makes sense. And then obviously you're talking about Krishna, who is the creator and maintainer of this whole universe. So you need to keep that. Yeah, I think that's what where I was looking at a practical way of doing it. So
yeah.
yeah, it's keep creating that environment. I think that's a
But
good.
even bringing, I mean, the mind is quite subtle, but even
Mm,
more practical is talking about the sense objects around us, the senses, right? Because
mm,
why does the mind go here and there? It's because of what's coming into the mind through the senses.
mm,
Like if I see something, that's going to go into the mind, and then the mind's going to go to that. You know,
yeah.
like if a half naked woman walks past me,
Mm,
the mind's going to be attracted to that because of what I
mm,
saw, and the mind
yeah.
is going to go there. So then obviously, try not to go places where there's half naked people walking around, to the beach
Ah.
or whatever. So like that. And if you hear something, then the mind gets attracted by that. Or if you smell something, or you taste something, like that. So therefore, it's recommended in the beginning you have to control the senses,
Mm,
because the senses influence the mind.
ah. Mm,
And then, like you say, the mind, it goes here and there. So, but if you have spiritual sense objects around you,
mm,
like nice pictures of Krishna and the Guru, like that, to see, and
mm,
you're hearing some bhajans and kirtans, and you're smelling some prasadam flower that's been offered to Krishna, and you're tasting prasadam, mahaprasadam, like that, then if you control the senses like that, then the mind automatically comes under control.
mm.
Otherwise,
Yes.
it's hard to control the mind if you don't
Mm.
first control the senses.
Yes, because that's the senses are feeding the mind, right? That's what it
Yeah,
is.
the senses are
Yes.
feeding the mind.
Yeah, I remember the picture
Yes.
in Bhagavad Gita
Yeah.
saying there are five horses,
Yes.
and then I think the what do you call that, to
The
control his
reins.
mind?
That's
He
the mind.
reins his
That's the
mind,
mind.
and then that's the instrument. An example of a car,
Yeah.
where mind is the instrument and uh, intelligence is the driver. So you're on top of it,
Yeah.
and
Yes.
then yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That makes
So
sense.
so spiritual life begins with controlling the senses,
Mm,
and then automatically the mind comes under control. Then we
mm,
control the intelligence like that.
mm,
So that's very important. That's why Prabhupada said no meat eating, no intoxication, no less sex, no gambling, because this is controlling the senses. And then
mm,
automatically, then the mind becomes more peaceful. That's why the mind is so out of control. People eat anything, sex anytime with anyone, and all
mm,
these kind of things. Then the mind becomes out of control, not possible. Any Krishna consciousness, not possible. So it begins, you have to control the senses, very important.
mm,
So we want to try to create a conducive environment so that through the senses, then the mind becomes more peaceful
mm. And I
as
think
much as possible.
association as well. I mean, it's
Mm.
somebody was saying sadhu sangha, or devotee
Yeah,
association, or people of
it's,
who are talking about Krishna, or
yeah,
if you're going with the people who are drinking or doing something else, then obviously you're exposing your senses to something else.
yeah, yeah,
Mm. Yeah.
yeah. The association sangha is very important.
Mm.
Mm. Okay, let's
Okay,
continue.
we'll go to next. Yeah. Um,
The instructions.
the instruction of Sri Isopanisad are more elaborately explained in the Bhagavad Gita, sometime called Gita Upanishad,
Mm.
the cream of all the Upanishads. In the Bhagavad Gita 3.9:16, the personality of Godhead says that one cannot attain the state of nashkarmya or akarma without executing the prescribed duties mentioned in the Vedic literature. This,
So here Prabhupada
yeah,
gives another definition of akarma. So
hmm,
another way of saying akarma is nice karma. Nice
nashkarma.
karma. So nice karma means no karma.
Hmm.
The same. Akarma means also without karma, without action. So
Another,
both of them mean the same thing, but two words for the same meaning. Nice
uh,
karma, akarma.
karma.
Nice karma means not 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 acting or
Hmm.
without any reaction. So the
Yeah,
same
same
thing.
same as a karma. Okay.
Yeah, nice karma. So sometimes you might read nice karma, but it means the same as akarma. No reaction. Mm.
Okay. This literature can regulate the working energy of a human being in such a way that he can gradually realize the authority of Supreme Being. When he realizes the authority of personality of Godhead, Vasudeva or Krishna, it is to be understood that he has attained the stage of positive knowledge. In this purified stage, the modes of nature, namely goodness, passion, and ignorance, cannot act, and he is able to work on the basis of Naishya Karmya. Such work does not bind one to the cycle of birth and death.
Mm.
Mm.
So if you're working with that consciousness, that you're accepting that your authority is the personality of Godhead, is Vasudeva Krishna, then if you're working in that consciousness that he's your authority, and you obviously if you accept that Krishna is your authority, that means that you will be obedient to his instructions, to his words.
Mm.
So if you work in that consciousness of being obedient to what Krishna wants, like in the Bhagavad Gita, one of his final instructions in the 18th chapter, he says, Manmana bhava madbhakto mam yaji mam naraiskaru. So
Mm.
that means Manmana, Krishna's saying, think of me. So that's his instruction to us, that we should think of him. And like you were saying, you know, when you're working, you know, you can think of him. So that's what he wants. That whatever we're doing, we're thinking of him while we're doing our work. And mad bhakto, become his devotee. Obviously, you know, why would you think of Krishna if you didn't love Krishna? You know, who do you think about? You think about people you love, you know, like you love your kids, so you think about them. You love your wife, you think about them. You don't think about someone you don't like, generally. You know, you think about people that you love, you know, or you think about, like someone loves money, so they think about money. Why do they think about money? Because they love money. You
It's
know?
all about love, I guess.
Yeah, so but Krishna's saying love me. And if you love Krishna, naturally you'll think about Krishna, you know, and then he says, Mam Yaji, worship me, you know, and then he says, Mam Naraskaru, means offer your obeisances. So be obedient, bow down to him, you know, that we're his servant. So we bow down, we serve so many other people, you know, but Krishna's saying, you know, you become obedient to me. We bow down to our family members or our boss or our government or so many, you know, we become a slave, obedient slave to so many others. But Krishna's saying, you know, become obedient to me, because he's the supreme controller. He's the supreme controller.
And then he says here, then there's something where it says, and the literature can regulate the working energy of human being in such a way that he can gradually realize the authority of supreme being. So you get, you know, the feeling of basically he, you get some kind of you know, connection basically with the Lord, and then you realize it. That's realization that that makes you go further, right? Is that correct? I mean, when you start realizing that, okay, you can see the difference, you know, when you do things without any, you know, without any reaction, without any actually or offering your everything to him, whether you're working or anything, you keep, you know, keep in your mind him as the ultimate authority. Even though you're doing work, it really depends on him.
Yes. Yeah.
So that realization part is, I think, that keeps you going. I think that once you experience something,
Yes.
yeah,
That's good. That's really good. Yeah, no, your understanding there is really good.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm simply doing japa. I can feel the difference. I mean, you can see that, you know, yeah. It's previously when I was actually, you can call me an atheist, or I didn't bother about anything. I
Yeah.
just very materialistic.
Yeah.
And yeah, so since I've done starting, you can feel that things change. I have changed my way of living.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
affecting. So that's giving me encouragement to say, yeah, I'm I want to do what I'm supposed to be here for. You know,
Yeah.
it's yeah, trying to get there. I mean,
That's good. That's good. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
So that's the beauty of this process. So you get very tangible results. So if you follow the guidelines, the prescriptions, then you get these realizations. You start to see things differently in life, and yeah, your consciousness just changes, and things that you could never understand before or perceive before, you start to understand. You start to perceive. You become more conscious, and your interest changes automatically.
Yeah,
You know,
that's true.
like, you know, what you I used to like so many gross things that I don't like anymore. You know, just eating junk food and rubbish and wasting time and so many things, and now those things don't interest me anymore. So that automatically happens. You get these realizations. And then that happens when you follow the guidelines. Like you say, you started to chant, and now that you've been chanting, then things are starting to transform. You know,
Yes.
so you only get those realizations if you follow the guidelines. If you don't follow the guidelines, then those doors never open up for you.
That's so true. I mean, that's where that's the point. That's the threshold point where you have to believe that. At least give it a try.
Yeah.
First, you need to look at other people. So I was looking at Gulshan and then talking to Gulshan and then see what's the harm in trying. You try to understand. Then reading Bhagavad Gita and to getting there. I mean, that's the point where people need to touch that point, and then after that, you don't need to guide them. I guess I don't know. They will automatically get to the stage where they want looking for how to improve on things.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So yeah, nah,
I
yeah.
remember talking about Gulshan. I remember what he was like. Like, must have been about 6 years ago when I first met him. He was full on materialistic, full on. And then now he's like completely transformed for the
Transform.
better. He's so much, he's so much happier and peaceful and knowledgeable and everything in his whole and a lot less fear and anxiety and stress free, and he's just so much better
Yeah,
off.
I
And
have
that,
seen the change. I have seen the change. I mean, yeah, I've
yeah.
been, yeah. So it's quite, yeah, dramatic. Yes.
But to get that transformation, you have to try the process. It's a science. So Prabhupada always called it a science. It's a science of self-realization. It's not a kind of faith. It's not a kind of belief or faith. It's a science. It means there's a process. You have to follow the process. If you don't, then you'll get the result. If you don't follow the process, you won't get the result. If you're following a different process, you're going to get another result. So, if you want to get the spiritual results, you have to follow the spiritual process.
I think
And
that's so right. Yeah.
that's what attracted me, because I was brought up very scientific way. I'm not interested in a kind of belief thing you believe in, or a kind of faith or whatever. I want something tangible and tangible results, something that I can experience. And that's what I like about this, that you experience these really tangible results, and that leads you on. I want to go further. I want to go
Yes.
further. This
Yes.
is good.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
exciting. I can.
That's so true.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Not that, when I die, then I'll find out whether it's true or not. No, this is
no,
right now. You're
no. Yeah.
experiencing it right now.
And
Spiritual
then
right now.
when you have the knowledge that everything is temporary here, the body, so you don't care about that things. Yeah, if somebody dies or we gonna die, that's fine. I mean, that's
Yeah.
because that's the law of nature. So you're not
Yes.
worried about and then how do you react to the other people around you as well? I mean, yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, it's
Good.
quite good.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's so nice. That's so nice.
And the other thing is that Prabhupada is it's a science. It's a science because you are experiencing yourself.
Yeah.
And that's a part I'm like very much. As you said, I'm also more kind of a science. People want to see everything, reason behind it or doing things. But yeah, this is real science actually. The actual way you should be living. That's
Yeah.
why I said somebody who taught me earlier when I was young, because in our household we follow all the Hindu rituals, but we
Yeah.
don't understand anything. I mean,
Yeah, that's the thing. There's no science. They're
yeah,
not
there's
presenting the science.
they're just following it and not questioning, trying to
Just
understand.
blindly,
Yeah,
blindly
yeah,
following it
yeah.
without any knowledge,
That's
any
right.
facts, nothing. And therefore, the young generation, they lose attraction to it, not attracted to it.
That's right.
So that's a real disservice, by not presenting it in a scientific way. There's so much science there, but they're not giving that part. So, but because Prabhupada presented the Vedic culture very scientifically, then so many scientific-minded people followed it.
Yes, that's so true. I mean, yeah. Okay,
Okay, let's go a bit further.
let's go.
Factually,
Factually, where was that? Okay. Where am I? Okay, working human beings always gradually realize. Okay, factually, no
yeah,
one has to do anything more than render devotional service to the Lord. However, In the lower stages of life, one cannot immediately adopt the activities of devotional service, nor can one completely stop fruitive work. A conditioned soul is accustomed to working for the sense gratification, for his own selfish interest, immediate or extended. An ordinary man works for his own sense enjoyment, and when this principle of sense enjoyment is extended to include his society, nation, or humanity in general, it assumes various attractive names such as altruism,
Mm,
socialism, communism, nationalism, and humanitarianism. These isms are certainly very attractive forms of karma bandhana or karmic bondage, but the Vedic instruction of Sri Isopanisad is that if one actually wants to live for any of the above ism, he should make them God centered.
mm.
There is no harm in becoming a family man, an altruist, or a socialist, or a communist, or a nationalist, or a humanitarian, provided that one executes his activities in relation with Ishwa Vashya, the God centered conception.
So there's some very
Mm,
interesting things here. This first sentence Prabhupada said in this paragraph is a real mind bender because it says, factually, no one has to do anything more than render devotional service to the Lord. So
mm,
we began off saying, as it was saying in the purport, that you can't avoid working. Everyone has to do some kind of work to maintain one's body.
body.
But here, Prabhupada just said the opposite thing. Factually, you don't have to do anything other than bhakti, devotional service. You don't have to do any other work.
Mm,
How does that, then you might think, logically, how does that work? You mean, I don't have to do anything other than chant. That's devotional service, right? I can just chant. But then I can just read Bhagavad Gita. I can just read
mm,
Bhagavad Gita and chant. So how's that going to work? How's my body going to be maintained in this world just by reading Bhagavad Gita and chanting? So this is very interesting. So like I said, ordinary the law of nature is everyone has to work and you can't
mm,
escape that. But there is an exception to that rule. If someone completely surrenders to God, right, and just their whole heart and soul, they just love God and they just do everything for God and nothing for themselves. So they're just chanting 24 hours a day, chanting and talking about Krishna and everything like that. And there have been people that have done that in the material world.
mm,
Like for example, one of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's followers less than 500 years ago, Haridas Thakur. He was born in a Muslim family,
mm,
but he was called Namacharya. The Lord Chaitanya made him the Acharya of the chanting the holy name because he used to chant 300,000 holy names every day.
oh,
16 rounds is about 28,000 names. If you chant 16 rounds a day, that's 28,000 names.
mm,
He was chanting 300,000 names every day.
wow.
That's, I think, from memory, that's 192 rounds every day.
Ah, ah,
Try to imagine that.
that's
192 rounds every day.
wow.
If he didn't finish his vow of 192 rounds, he wouldn't eat anything and he wouldn't sleep.
Mm,
Only if he finished everything, 192, then he might sleep a bit or eat something. So that's this principle. Factually, you don't have to do anything other than devotional service. So how does that work? So, because ordinarily the body's not going to survive if you don't
mm,
work for maintaining it. So how that works is if you completely devote yourself to Krishna, how's Krishna going to respond to that? You've given yourself 100% to him. You know what
He will.
happens?
He will take care of you. Yeah. Hmm?
He will personally. This is very special. God, this Krishna, will personally take care of you. If you give, if you fully surrender everything for you, Krishna, nothing for me, then he personally takes care of you. I know even like Prahlad Maharaj, you know the story of Prahlad, 5-year-old boy.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I think. Yeah.
He was so absorbed in Krishna that he never thought about where is food, where am I going to sleep, what am I going to do? He was just thinking about Krishna all the time, and Krishna personally arranged everything for him, put food in front of him, organized sleeping arrangement. Everything was arranged by Krishna. Krishna personally took care of everything for him, like that. I know even in the days of ISKCON, I'm talking within the last 40 years, the Prabhupada told the devotees just go out on the streets and chant Hare Krishna. And but were renting a place for a temple. How are they going to pay the rent? It's and all they were doing is just chanting on the streets. And how is that going to pay for the rent? They didn't do anything to make money to pay for the rent. But they owed so much money for the rent. If they didn't pay it, they're going to be thrown out. The temple's going to be closed. So they were wondering, how are we going to pay the rent? So they were out chanting early in the morning, japa, early in the morning, even before the sunrise. It was just the light was coming. And this is a true story. This is not a fairy tale. There was buildings either size, and this was in San Francisco, I think, or New York. And they were this one couple of devotees were just walking, and money just fell down from the sky. I'm not joking. Money just fell down from the sky all around them, and they just picked it up. They just picked it up, and they used that money to pay the rent, buy food for the temple, and so many things like that. I mean, they looked up around. As someone dropped some money or something like that? Did someone drop the money or something by accident? There was no one there. Nobody was there. Money was just. I mean, even myself personally. I mean, there was times when we were just doing everything for Krishna, and distributing books. We were traveling around New Zealand distributing books, and we didn't do anything for ourselves, but it was amazing that everything we needed was provided. Everything we needed. Even with the bhakti tree, sitting at the bhakti tree. When we got the building, we had no money to renovate it. We had no money to pay the mortgage. There was a $100,000 mortgage. And we had no money to build the kitchen because it was an old furniture store. So there was no kitchen. It was all run down. We had to renovate the whole space and then make a commercial kitchen. We had no money. And we just distributed prasadam. That's all we did. We didn't go and work in an office or a factory or anything. We just distributed prasadam. And somehow or other the money came. And through mysterious ways. One man, he gave us about $80,000, and we used that to pay the mortgage.
That's
That was amazing.
wow. That's amazing.
He gave a donation once, and he heard that, and my wife said, we'll use that to help pay the mortgage. And he said, what? God has a mortgage? He's a very simple guy. How can God, because we're God's organization, right? So
Yes,
how
of
can God
course.
have a mortgage? So he was very upset. He was a
Ah.
doctor. He was a doctor in Malaysia. And he
Oh.
was very upset. He came and did some service at the Bhakti Tree for some time, visiting some family that was in Newcastle. he came and did some service. He loved distributing prasadam with us. So, and then he went back to Malaysia, and then he gave a donation. And when he heard that we had a mortgage, he was so upset. And then we didn't know anything more than that until the next day. The next day, my wife checked the account, and someone had put like $80,000 in there.
Wow.
And it was him.
Mm.
It was him. So like that, you just do service for God, and God will look after you. And how does he do it? It's not that necessarily Krishna with a blue Krishna with a flute is going to come and give you the food or whatever, but he can work through any way, through anybody. He has
Anybody can be the
as his
instrument. Yeah.
instrument. So he's like pulling the strings. So he can just make the most amazing arrangements. And I've seen that. Even right now, how we got this piece of land. We were so frustrated that we didn't get that place or this place or whatever. But now I see it was all Krishna's plan. That we didn't get those other places because this is the best one. This is like ideal for what we need to do our service. So like that, if like Prabhupada's saying here, factually, no one has to do anything more than render devotional service. But then he says, however, in the lower stages of life, one cannot immediately adopt the activities of devotional service. So this is so nice, because let's be practical. We're not all ready to just surrender, everything and give up everything else and just serve Krishna. Generally, most people are not. We've been conditioned in this material world for many lifetimes, and we're attached to sense gratification, sense enjoyment, and we're not ready to just give it up 100%, just to please Krishna 100%. Before I was pleasing myself 100%. Now I've got to stop that and please Krishna 100%. That's like turning around, 360-degree turnaround. So you can't expect that everyone's going to be able to do a 360-degree turnaround, in 1 second. So this is so practical. It's true that you can just surrender everything and do it for Krishna and he'll look after you. Okay, but if you can't do that, you can continue what you're doing. That's what it's saying here. Continue what you're doing and just add Krishna to it. Just add Krishna to it. And like you said, those words, altruism, like that means being a welfare worker. Welfare with philanthropy, altruism means like this point here is that there's different layers of sense enjoyment. The first layer is I just want to please my senses, my tongue, my genitals, so forth. Then you extend it out. Okay, my family. So see how it's radiated out? First of all, it's my body, my senses. Then my family's senses. Then my society's senses. My communities, my country, my planet, or my humanity. So all these, like Prabhupada's using the word, ism, ISM, ism. So all these isms, altruism, philanthropism, socialism, communism, nationalism, they're all different, you could say, radiating out from us, different layers of sense enjoyment. And it's all connected to, ultimately, to me. Listen to this, my body, my family, my society, my nation, my country, my humanity, so it's all centered around me. So it's sense gratification. So this is what we're attached to, is sense gratification, either just to, the ultimate selfishness, just my body, or even, radiated out, but it's still the same principle.
It's just the same.
Why do I love New Zealand so much? Because my body comes from New Zealand. Or you could say, why do I love India so much? Is it logical? Why do you love India more than any other place? But it's only based on because my body comes from there. So it's all a kind of radiating out from the selfishness of the body. I mean, why do I love my family more than the family next door? It's not logical, is it? But it's just based on the body. So it's all radiating out because this body has a relationship with my body. Therefore, you know, I love it and serve it and all these kind of things like that. It pleases my body. It pleases me. So, you know, why do I care for my family? Because it makes me happy. Why do I care for my country? Because it makes me happy. Why do I care for the dogs? Because it makes me happy. Why do I care for the trees? Because it makes me happy. So it's ultimately all centered around my happiness. Me. So here it's very interesting that Prabhupada's saying that's okay, but just try to do all those activities in relationship with God. So you can still have that relationship with your family, your country, but just try to, what he's saying here, just shift the central point. Instead of me in the central point, put Krishna in the central point. So instead of saying my family, say Krishna's family. Instead of saying my community, it's Krishna's community. Instead of saying, my animals, they're Krishna's animals. My country is Krishna's country. So you see, you don't have to cut off your relationship with your work or your family or your society or whatever, but just what you're going to try to do is bring Krishna into the center and take yourself out of the center. So that's why it said ISKCON, International Society for Krishna Consciousness. So you're putting Krishna in the center of your consciousness. Before it was me. That was all the consciousness was just centered around me. I, and mine, So what we're trying to do is put Krishna in the central point.
So good.
And then that's really a practical philosophy for everyone at every level. Because they can still continue exactly as they are. They don't have to change their occupation. They don't have to change their family situation. If they're single, they can stay single. If they're married, they can stay married. If they're a student, they can stay a student. If they're working, they can stay. If they're in one country, they can stay there. They don't have to go. You don't have to change anything. All you have to do is just try to change the central point and put Krishna in the center.
So, I think that's true. Yeah, that's I think that's what we need, and everything falls in place after that. If you keep so you don't need to. That's I think I guess everything else will fall in place or according to the laws, or you will change basically slowly. Things will change for you.
And after we're very purified by living that kind of life, it may happen in due course, especially towards the end of life, where you do stop all those activities and you just do devotional service, and Krishna just takes care of you. And many people have experienced that, where that actually happens.
Yeah, I think people who totally given themselves to Krishna's devotion, it must be a slow process. You can't just go into that. It's a gradual elevation, I guess.
Yeah. And I like that because Prabhupada, he's so onto it, and he says that However, in the lower stages of life, one cannot immediately adopt the activities of devotional service, nor can one completely stop fruitive work. So he's so onto it, he's really with us, he's not
Yes,
just in
sir.
a cloud. He's not just talking in a cloud,
Yes,
way above. He's right on ground level, very practical,
very practical. That's true. Yeah.
starting right from where I am right today as,
Mm, mm.
still stuck in materialism and influenced by the modes of nature and everything like that. But this is connecting Krishna consciousness right with where we are right now, and that's far out. It's just so beautiful, and it's something that anyone and everyone can adopt, no matter what level they're on.
Yes, they can relate. It's very practical. He's
Yeah,
not saying anything eh, extremely difficult or something really drastically different. It's just
yeah,
whatever we are doing, we have to just adjust a bit, as you said, the center of
just
attention.
the central point. That's all.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
But it's not easy, I guess.
Yeah.
Yes,
Wait,
yes.
wait. The thing is, we're attached to putting
Mm,
ourselves in the center.
mm.
But we, through hearing all this, we understand
We,
that we're suffering so much by doing that. We're not
mm,
meant to be in the center. We're doing a lousy job at trying to be
yeah.
God. We're just failing miserably, and we're
We are not following the rules. Yeah, that's his rules. Basically, that's what it is, I guess.
yeah, yeah. Well,
I think it's
that's
quite some time. Yeah,
yes,
you
yes.
yeah,
That's
you have to be up.
enough.
It's too late there. So probably we should continue next week. I think to
Yes.
yeah, we'll
Well, it's
continue.
been very nice. I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah,
Hope you have too.
yeah, me too. Yeah, me too. Thank you very much for your time. I mean, yeah.
Your pleasure.
All right, we'll see you. Hare Krishna.
Okay, you take care. All the best for you
You
all.
too. You too.
Yeah.
Bye.